Awesome. Welcome, everyone. And of course, there's no problem, Steve. You enjoy your lunch. So, um, it is the 16th of May, and welcome everyone to the Jisc Accessibility Maths Working Group meeting. I think it's our second of the year, which is all good fun. We have a relatively short agenda at the moment, depending on whether or not one of our chunkier parts of the agenda joins us today. But if not, what I've got planned is to have Uh, I call it a win and a wish, or like it's similar to a star and a wish, something that you've made some progress in recently in the world of STEM accessibility, and then a wish so we can start to see where people want that change to happen as well, and see if we can then leverage the group's weight to then go ahead and actually do that. So, with that in mind, I'm going to pop a link in the chat. It is an awful hyperlink. Might even tidy that up at some point. But that should take you through to a quick page. And then we have a win and a wish. I'll just throw some extra columns or rows into that table. Okay, so I can see a couple of people jumping in that already, which is fantastic. I've put an example in there to get started. So my recent accessibility win is over the last 2 months, STEM accessibility has been gaining more internal traction at the University of Southampton. It seems to be coming up in conversation a lot more, and we're starting to explore things in a more conjoined way. So working closer with faculties, working closer with software engineers to see what we can do, which to me seems like a very, very positive step to be taking that forward. My accessibility wish is I'd like the LaTeX project to provide support to Beamer class files. So at the moment, the LaTeX project is a community run project that is designed to provide automatic tagging to a range of different classes of documents. However, it's currently still under development and it's still experimental, but it's not experimental with Beamer class files. And I would like to give it a whirl with Beamer class files once it's then supported. That's my big wish. I could even share my screen. That would be much easier, wouldn't it?
Radical.
So, hi Ross, we're just we're filling in a table with a recent win and a recent wish to do with STEM accessibility. There's a link in the chat. Awesome. Maybe at some point today as well, Christian, I want to pick your brains about the new Chiron LTI.
Yeah, okay.
And I appreciate you've had a big week, so I won't pick too firmly.
I'm busy updating the numbers LTI tool. My life is just LTI. So boring.
You need to start like sneaking in Easter eggs like 90s video games developers. just reading through your one, Sharon, about using AI. There was a really good one. This one, quite a good AI engine that's pretty good at doing alt text. Like it's probably the best one that I've come across. I'll put the link in the chat so you can then have a play and compare it against anything that you've been using as well. But it's images.
I appreciate that because none of them are perfect, but it sure does take a lot of work. And that scale, it might not be the right scale. I'm trying to look up the right word for it, but it's one that English as a second language teachers use to address reading ability. You know, in English, and they've shown a pretty strong correlation between understanding the language of math and reading ability. So if we can, I mean, to me, that's the important part.
Yeah.
Among many others, I guess.
This is one of the aspects which we have.
Did you put that in chat?
Yes, yeah. It is developed by Arizona State University.
Oh, be still my beating heart. And it does math?
Yeah, well, it does a reasonable good job at alternative text. And so this is one I've just found on Google just then. It provides a shown in that graph. And then underneath it has what I would determine as the alternative text for most readers. They don't want all of that information.
Perfect, right. And you know, you can always link to elaborate descriptions.
Absolutely.
Through WCAG requirements for long descriptions.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we come in, right? People don't know how to stuff all that into the tiny little alternative text boxes you're given in almost any application. Big math descriptions never fit.
No.
So I think this group has the know-how how to make it happen.
And from memory, someone who is a software engineer might be able to help on this, but I don't think long description is supported anymore in any of the WCAG specifications. It was depreciated a couple of years ago now.
Okay, so I am speaking to you who this group actually understands there's a technical definition for that. My apologies. You're right. The long description is deprecated. However, comma, we can let me rephrase that. There's ways in WCAG in which we can link to long descriptions.
I see.
Not the like the title.
Yes.
The thing that is a long description. We can link to descriptions that are very long. Let me phrase it like that. But you're right, absolutely right. And yeah, I wouldn't even use a long description anymore because it's so the function, or you know, because it's so deprecated.
Yeah. It's a shame that it was
deprecated. Long explanations. How about that?
Yes, a long explanation.
Have a link to long explanations. But thank you, and thank you for bringing that up. I mean,
no problem.
Details are so important in this game.
Let's see what else we've got. This one. Yes. Ooh, that's exciting, Lucy. How have you gone about rendering them in HTML?
Yeah, so I don't know much about the technical aspects of it, but essentially we have SALIPs at Leeds, which are School Academic Leads in Inclusive Practice. We love an acronym, so that was a good one there. And our maths SALIP is running this session like with some digital education representatives, but not me, as I'm at home quite evidently. But yeah, we're running a drop-in for the whole of our engineering and physical sciences faculty for anyone that currently uses LaTeX and puts it into PDF using BookML and some other kind of internally developed systems at Leeds. They figured out how to get them into HTML files, and they're just running a drop-in session 2 till 4 today. It's happening right now. For Global Accessibility Awareness Day, on how you can generate those HTML files and then add them into Minerva rather than carrying on using the inaccessible PDFs, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, that felt like a real win. That it was also quite academic led, which felt like a real win for me, especially that it didn't have to like force people to do things. It was kind of like they came up with it, they really wanted to do it, which was great for me, especially. Yeah.
That's a huge win. You must be over the
Massive
moon
win.
with that.
Yes, I'm very excited about that one, to be fair. It was a big win.
So, what VLE do you use at Leeds? Just curious.
We use Blackboard Ultra.
Blackboard Ultra.
Yeah. So when they add the HTML files, there's sometimes you have to add special permission on. So I don't know if anyone's ever come across that. You have to allow the JavaScript. So I've tried essentially to get anyone in maths kind of it bulk added on for this permission so that HTML files work without any kind of major drama, which can be difficult.
We're in at the University of Southampton. We're in the midst of just about to move into Ultra. So this is one of the many considerations that we're debating at the moment as we move, because in Learn Original it wasn't an issue because everything was contained.
Issue, yeah. But no, it can be a slight problem. But we kind of figured it out, we think now. A good like solution of getting like a constant list of people needing the permission, but it was a slight struggle at the beginning. I'll be honest.
It would be interesting to hear Anthology's take on that and whether or not it could be a global setting to apply that to anyone with an instructor role, for example.
We've also asked the same because it kind of doesn't make sense that you have to do it on an individual basis. It's a long process for anyone in our systems team. It's like they just like give them a big list. I'm like, here you go. And they're like, oh, thanks, Lucy. I'm like, sorry. But yeah, it's all working out now, and obviously you only have to give it to someone once. It doesn't roll on, so their permissions continue year on year. But it was quite a lot of work, kind of up front, shall we say?
Fantastic. I'm just writing down things so then I can keep myself busy for the week after this as well. Daniel Brown, do you have your microphone with you today?
Yes, I do. Let me put my camera on. I was just lurking. I was interested to hear about the special permissions because at the University of Central Lancashire, we figured. Well, I say we. Myself, and our team and Anthology figured all that out back in August. And well, we've got those permissions, but currently, I think I'm the only person in the university who's got it. But it's been a big help. I've been exporting HTML output from Jupyter Notebooks, worked up Jupyter Notebooks, and just be able to put them on for the students to work from has been absolutely fantastic. I'm kind of interested as well in the latex HTML side of things. I've been playing around with what was it called? Tech for HT to try and convert, and it's a little bit tricky to get working initially, and a whole lot of heavy stuff at the first end. But I think the feeling is if we can get it working, if we get it working with a class file, bespoke class file, then it can then be spread around the other mathematicians in the group. So I've been tasked with that. But as always with these kind of things, the rest of the job gets in the way.
I'd be very keen to hear how it goes with your Text for HT, because I've played around with it and I've never actually got it to compile anything meaningful on the other side.
I have managed to get it compile something on the other side. It isn't quite perfect yet. Well, that's a bit of an overstatement. But I can get output, but it's not quite doing everything, rendering everything properly just yet. but yes, it required a whole load of development of extra bits and pieces in the, not only in the class file, but there's also a HE LaTeX equivalent file that you need to work on and add bits in and things like that. So it was a steep learning curve. And I'm a bit horrified. I think that it's been a couple of years and I've forgotten everything that I learned when I could turn back to it again.
Yeah, there's LaTeX is one of those skills that is almost as soon as you stop using it, it all goes. The whole mine cart gets pushed over and you forget everything. It's incredibly difficult. I'm curious to know whether, so when you're writing in LaTeX, do you write it in your own environments or do you primarily use something like Overleaf?
We have a mixture. We do use a lot of Overleaf, particularly when we're team developing material. But well, I used to do a lot of it on my Linux box, just using, you know, a standard distro. But now we've got now with the university PCs that we're allocated, we're very much in the Windows environment, so we're hitting
MikTeX.
Yeah, MikTeX and Tech Studio and that kind of thing. So, but I mean, over the years, I've done a lot of stuff in terms of working, building class files and that kind of thing for my own use. We've got an exam class file that I developed, for example, just to make sure all of the maths exams were of a style. So I've got a fair amount of expertise in doing that, but it's always again, you know, you come back to it after a couple of years, you think, what and how on earth did this work, and why didn't I document it properly first time around?
Yes. Very, very cool. Okay. Cordelia, you've been surfing through, finding all the conferences, talks, workshops, everything like that. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I guess we'll come back to that a bit towards the end, actually. So,
who thinks handwritten notes are accessible? Ooh, that's controversial.
This was a big argument I got into with some people the other day, where they were all going in. We were having a big talk about accessibility, and then they went, "But there's nothing wrong with handwritten notes," and I had a kind of deep body shudder to have a rant at them. Yeah, when you think you've kind of got the basics, some people get the basics down, then you realize they don't get the basics.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it is difficult, isn't it? Because on an individual basis, handwritten notes are, I'm not going to say accessible, but they're extremely functional in tailoring a learning experience to an individual.
And it is that weird thing of maths, is if you are teaching maths on a kind of one-to-one basis or in person, you would, of course, you'd use handwritten stuff over anything else. And by that is by far the best, most accessible, best educational outcomes way of doing it. But yeah, the second a computer's involved, it's not.
We've had some goes at Durham using a tool called a learning glass, where we've had various maths lecturers write on the glass, and obviously you film it from the other side and it's kind of see-through and lit up by LED, and you write in kind of neon pens and stuff, and then you flip it on the horizontal plane to produce a video at the end, and that works quite neat, but it doesn't automatically come with a kind of transcript of anything that's going on, so it can be a real faff to make even that fully accessible, even though you're capturing that scenario where the tutor is presenting and talking through whatever it is that they're developing at the time.
What is that called again? Can you put that in the chat, please?
The tool is called the learning glass. I'll dig up a link to it and pop it in the chat for you.
Thank you. Or I can Google.
It's also that thing of, if you look at kind of accessible lecture recordings, one of the best things for an accessible lecture recording is for like to handwrite notes and have them projected with a visualizer. So, but then students often want those handwritten notes from the lectures that you've produced. So there's always the argument that why can't you just upload them? But they in themselves.
Even if I thank you, Stephen. Even if that thing doesn't capture audio, it's very simple to have a simultaneous audio recording made, right? And then just capture. And once that audio recording is made, that can be put in a format, that is all kinds of accessible to learners. But we're gonna look that up because math is still so visual at the end of the day. Really appreciate it.
I think the primary motivation, I think, for using that tool was to try and, in that particular module in question, come at it from a slightly flipped approach, whereby they would get a lot of the kind of lecture-based content up front and then meet up for seminars afterwards to kind of discuss what was being worked through. So I don't know that it was specifically targeted for accessible reasons, but yeah, I mean, when the videos are uploaded, they go into our Panopto service, and that creates a transcript at the time, which we can then subsequently post-production edit down to be accurate.
And they are starting to get, well, one, it's just a philosophy that I can't prove, but I've heard other people say there's been research on it. Sorry, I haven't looked it up. But there is something about writing with your hand that makes you learn better than typing or watching. There's something, if you involve yourself physically, your learning is better and deeper. And I've noticed that for myself and when I was teaching many students. So I'm going to put something in chat that somebody gave to me. And the bottom line is, she gave me this link. Have you seen what ChatGPT-4 does? But the point being, when I saw the little video, the person was writing on a digital screen, and that can be captured. So maybe this Learning Glass tool is not capturing content today. We're only recording it. But already the technology exists to where we can capture input by hand, on digital, and it's just a matter of these two technologies getting together, to where we can have something accessible where the students interacting, capture it, and use it later.
There's an interesting slight addendum to that too about the kind of physical writing of it. There was a study I read a couple of months ago, about, because I'm quite interested in the physicality of writing, but apparently that doesn't cross so well to like digital writing. There is something about having paper and having the ability to kind of spread it out next to each other that is part of that physicality. So actually, there's a whole thing about kind of digital paper not quite carrying over in the same way, which is interesting, I think.
That is
and
interesting.
Also, the variability, digital just linearizes stuff, which is part of what makes it accessible. The linearization of content is why LaTeX is accessible, right? Because you get the right order of operations in a linear fashion, and that's how we understand, those who understand math. That's how people perceive math and do it. That said, when you're looking holistically at something, you're always looking, when you learn, you're always looking in bits and pieces, and then you drink it in as a whole. And I still know of no substitute for looking at a whole something and being able to write notes on the side, and to be able to do the meta. We're actually putting metadata on it when we write notes to the side. And I think that's an important part of learning that we don't really have a way to capture easily yet in digital because of the linearization.
Yeah, I think you might be right though. If something like a learning glass or even just an interactive whiteboard teams up with someone like Equatio, and you've got that lecture recording and then it digitizes the math through handwriting on the spot, then someone's got a big business idea right there, haven't they? That's a
Go make your millions, Luke.
yeah. That's open for anyone who wants to develop
that. You still need mathematicians because it's so bogus, all the automated stuff without mathematician input.
Yes,
absolutely. Or oversight, or whatever you want to call it.
I just want to echo
knowledgeable input.
If I can come in and pick up Lucy's comment in the chat, which has just literally scrolled off my screen, saying that they've used Learning Glass and it's cool, but it needs good planning. I would echo that definitely, because we've filmed that in a recording studio, so there's a degree of post-production editing time, although the particular academic concern was largely excellent and did things a kind of mostly first take, but occasionally made mistakes. And if you've done a load of work and then you've made a mistake earlier in the screen in the equation, it's a right old faff to go back and redo it again. So it's not a 5-minute job, but I think the student feedback has been that they've absolutely loved it. I thought it's been a real enhancement to their module.
Yeah, I would echo that. We have like a big kind of recording studio situation going on, and we have one in there. And yeah, it's really good, but by no means is it a 5-minute job. It's kind of like ours was kind of half a day of recording, because if you say one thing wrong or you're at the wrong number, the wrong place, kind of started it all again. And then on top of that, obviously, the academic hasn't written it backwards. Like someone in the digital education team, we've post edited it, like flipped the screen, made sure it's as of decent quality, put it out there. So, and they're not also the cheapest of things to buy.
Sorry, we taught all of our academics to write back to front, which took a very long time and saved us some money on flipping things.
Yeah, no, that was one of the questions we had when we got an academic to do it. They were like, "Am I going to have to learn to write backwards?" And we were like, "No." So yeah,
they're not. The devices are not cheap. I mean, I don't know what they retail for, but it's an investment. It's not the kind of thing you think, "Oh, I'll just get one of them in case I need it."
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But they are cool, and they do make great content that students, especially if you're going for a sort of flipped model, really cool, really useful for that. That kind of content.
Yeah, similar to yourself, Ross, at the University of Southampton, we use Explain Everything for a sort of digital whiteboarding solution. And they, almost 2 years ago, they were purchased by Promethean, who are the interactive whiteboards kind of developer. And it was a really nice win, actually, that we already had some of their hardware on our campuses through having interactive whiteboards in lecture spaces. And then all of a sudden it then got that sort of increased capability through Explain Everything. So you can go in and you can capture lecture recordings that way. But it doesn't support accessible maths all that well. It's very good at capturing math, and so people can replay it and have that sort of sense into it. But if you needed to interact with it with assistive technology, I don't think you'd have a very positive experience. So
we tried a slightly dumber solution to this, but it's still reasonably clever in that we just got a pair of cameras that are above the whiteboards, and they do all sorts of digital, like keystoning, try to edit out the hand and the person who's writing on it. But we were able to pair it. So we had two whiteboards at the front, one over each, and a toggle button. So for recording and streaming, you can toggle between the two whiteboards. So you've got the real estate, you've got writing on a whiteboard itself. As you say, it's just recording rather than being able to engage with it interactively. But it did have the benefit that because if you're also projecting on the screen in the middle, or we've got some halfway back TVs mounted in the ceiling, is that you're projecting on those as well, so you're not necessarily stood in the way of the whiteboard for everyone. So in an in-class recording situation, they seem to work quite well.
Were they done in lecture spaces or seminar spaces?
Lecture spaces.
Okay. Yeah. That's a cool little bit. And Christian, tell us why physics are holding out.
They use PowerPoint and Word. It's the short story. So the received wisdom is that PowerPoint is accessible, so they don't need to do anything, which doesn't apply to the people who make a PDF and paste an image of the PDF into their PowerPoint. But I can't get through to them. The school's been really good at, from the top down, as well as me checking on people saying you have to make stuff accessible. So heads of unit are checking on individual lecturers. Yeah, but largely we've done pretty well. I've had to chase a lot of people this year, but we've got to 2/3 to the point where 2/3 of modules are at the point where I'm happy with everything they're putting out. And then there are just a few more that haven't engaged at all, and I think are sufficiently senior that they feel they don't need to.
That is a huge result for you. Remind me what VLE you're using as well.
We're on Canvas, but I don't think it matters.
No. Do you have Ally installed on Canvas as well, or not?
Yes, but it's completely useless. I'll say that without reservation, that it's useless and misleading.
I share that sentiment. I think when we got the tool maybe 2-3 years ago, we thought it was going to be quite good at directing us, and it's more a case of we spend our time trying to interpret what it's actually showing.
I got really cross with it when I since I have access to every module on Canvas, I went through every module, checking what they're doing, seeing are they using Chiron, something else, what they're doing, and everything in Canvas has an Ally score next to it, like every PDF or page or whatever. And I noticed a page that had a really low score, and Ally said there's no title on this page, but I looked at it and there was, and I could get to it with a screen reader. But there was other stuff on that page that Ally hadn't. There were some images that it hadn't even noticed because they weren't the kinds of images it was expecting. So I got really cross about this, and to the main Jisc accessibility group was like, does anyone use Ally? And got some confirmation that it's no good. But I spent some time making a document that was completely unreadable to anyone, but got a perfect Ally score.
Yeah, this is my big worry with it, is it only measures such a small subset of accessibility, and what it measures quite inaccuracy. And
I had a very long argument with Lillian once because she was very much wanting these scores to be high, and I said, you've got two choices. You can have a high score, or it can actually be accessible. You can't apparently have both.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do seem completely arbitrary sometimes.
I think Ally knows the problems. They are this is not, it's so hard to even get people in at a ground level, and it's meant, I think it's Ally we use as a starting place. Of course, we don't ever consider it a final for the STEM, but it is great for in our institution. There's a history of making everything a PDF from Word documents for things like syllabi and all. We're not talking the STEM stuff, right? The LaTeX. So it's been great about, Ally has been phenomenal about teaching basic things that people didn't know, but it seems to work strong, it has a very strong effectiveness if the source of the PDF is Microsoft Word.
Mm.
If the source of the PDF is something else, it doesn't work. And we just say, you know, we tell them section 504 tells you if something's not accessible, just be ready to do it in another format. We don't even try with the math. We just say, get the math in a different format. If you're a teacher who uses LaTeX and your class does too, put it in LaTeX.
Mm.
Otherwise, we'll work with you and get something else.
Yeah.
But it's been great for the secretary, staff. You know, when you're putting syllabi out, syllabi are usually generated in Microsoft Word.
Mm-hmm.
As a first start, when people, before they even come into this institution or any institution, and it's been extremely helpful there. But I think the LI people are trying something extremely difficult and for which their tools actually may not exist for evaluation in this day and age for STEM.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's no matter how many accessibility tools you pin in your Chrome toolbar, nothing's ever going to beat a manual check of someone sitting down with a file with some assistive technology and saying, okay, does this interact? And measuring it that way. Really good point. And last but not least, what's Ross up to? Ross is about to take to the path, down the Chiron path. Fantastic. You're on Ultra as well, aren't you? Yeah. Fantastic. Might be an idea to maybe two birds, one stone, that because we're looking at putting Chiron into our School of Mathematics as a proof of concept, and then hopefully bringing over to chemistry, physics, and engineering. And then after we've done that, we then tackle music notation. And if anyone has got a dab hand at that, then please do let me know. Or if Christian, you fancy spinning up an LTI that transforms music notation to some other accessible format, I'm, pardon the pun, but I'm all ears.
I wouldn't even know where to begin with
Trying
that.
to help music was even harder than trying to help math.
Yeah.
And I know neither, but I will tell you, it came to my understanding that music is even harder than math because a musician consumes while they produce at the same time they produce, if that makes sense. They read while they play, which is probably why I never could, like, I can't even walk and chew gum at the same time. I could never like read music and play. But it's even worse than that. Yeah. And no, the one answer consistently seems to be LaTeX, and most of the music people don't know that.
Okay. I'm going to put a question mark next to music. Okay. So, which brings us on, if I zoom this in, because it's quite small for everyone, which brings us on to the open letter to Blackboard anthology. By all means, you can tell me if you don't think this is the right approach. I'm certainly all ears, but I am increasingly frustrated with the lack of development and communication more than anything from Anthology regarding any improvements to their products that would aid in making STEM more inclusive. No problem, Steve. So what I would like to do, or what I have done, is I've outlined what the issue is, provided examples of why it's an issue. So in the Ally STEM enhancements features, we've not had anything since 2023 Q1, so January 2023. And in Ultra, we've not had anything from 2022. And that was with the automatic rendering of the Jisc equations. So you didn't have to type in all of the delimiters. However, not all LaTeX delimiters are actually supported. And the Jisc equation editor doesn't reflect how people actually author STEM content. It's fantastic for putting in one equation onto a content area on a page, but it doesn't reflect how someone may actually put a problem sheet together or put an exam together. So I then have a list of desired outcomes. What I would like is for them to provide information, whether it's progress or simply their aims, just so we have some communication of where they're going with their development in terms of STEM support at the next Anthology Roadmap meeting, which should be next month. I would like them to provide an update on the MathJax idea that hopefully considers the following. So why is it marked as future consideration? It's been that way for nearly a year now. At what point do you say this is not actually being considered and we are just parking this idea? What is Anthology's vision for STEM support? I don't think we've got a clear direction of how they envision supporting this, or if they're going to support this. Are they going to try and plug the gap using, specialist LTIs rather than developing something themselves? One thing I think which could work well is if MathJax could be part of that enhanced HTML alternative format. So if someone has that and then they can download something that supports MathJax, then it might be more likely that you get something that's accessible on the return. That would, of course, rely on people uploading their tech files to Blackboard rather than the exported PDFs. But I think that could be a reasonable request. As well as having ultra documents as well. I don't know if anyone went to Birmingham or Durham recently for the Blackboard conferences, but there's the ultra documents, which is their WYSIWYG content provider sort of feature, is getting more and more attention as they want us to replace our standalone files and move into that area of having everything online. But I don't think it's there yet. And I think there's a lot of common features which are missing for that to be in place. So one thing I would quite like to see is whether or not MathJax could be implemented on an ultra document. So you don't have to enable it. You don't have to pull it out from anywhere else. It could just be included on the content editor and you say, yeah, this is a math enabled ultra document. So then anything that's typed with the double $ delimiter or other delimiters, then sort of render that maths in MathJax. That would be an ideal place, because that way people can then write maths similar to a problem sheet using an ultra document without having to go into a graphical user interface. Does anyone have any thoughts, horrors, or anything like that on this idea?
I like. Okay, I'll go. I think I've got some echo. Or okay. I like the idea of using it in documents. That would be the MathJax in Blackboard documents would be a very clear end product for me. That and probably quizzes is the other area that you would want it in. If we could if those two things could happen, that'd be brilliant. I would also, I don't know how to work into the letter, but some kind of date. We're probably all thinking about the 24-25 semester. If in future means forget about it for the next academic year, then we who are either moving into it or, we need to think of other solutions for this next academic year.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And at least we can then provide our internal stakeholders with the support that they need, because at the moment we're kind of just waiting for the bus, but you don't know how far away it is down the road. It's a bit frustrating.
So realize that I'm in Canvas and I have no I think it's good to use Blackboard specific products as a starting point. But if we could possibly include, is something to the effect of, is there any consideration for adding LTIs for other LMSs?
Yes.
for Math Jacks. The only thing I'm taking a little bit of worry about, the absence of progress reported. Although I agree with you, and I'm really glad this letter is coming, and you're saying we understand this is tough, but we're just asking for updates. Are you even looking at it, right? Are you even looking at it? And just giving us updates tells us you're looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
If we could possibly rephrase that a little, because to me it sounds accusatory, and I really do think these people are trying. I mean, this is a tough subject. So if you don't care, I mean, maybe when I have free time a little bit later today, I could just put in some suggestions on the side or something.
Absolutely.
But definitely, I can't applaud you highly enough. This needs to be taken. This step needs to be taken. These things need to be said, right?
Mm.
And if they're not said, I think I share an unspoken worry that they're going to be kind of dropped for more popular things. Okay,
absolutely.
so with your blessing, I'll add a few notes later today. I've got meetings back to back, otherwise I'd do it now. One, to kind of give them a pat on the back where they've come so far, because I know they do care.
True.
And two, to try and make it a little bit more LMS agnostic. Don't take out anything about ultra documents or any of that, because that gives them a good starting point. You go from known to unknown.
Yeah.
But I might add, something about other LMSs. Thank you. And thank you for doing this, and thank you for time and trouble.
No, that's why we do this. And thank you. Very, very reasonable suggestions. If anyone else has any comments after reading through this, by all means, throw a comment on the file. I'm not going to close it off by any means. I'm not sending it tomorrow. I would quite like to have a finished product that we can agree on, maybe using the mailing list as well. We can distribute it that way and make sure that everyone's happy with it before then sending it off, because it represents the whole group. It's not just Luke's angry shouting at Anthology. It's the progress that we all want to see with a product. Awesome. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, because I'm going to be the note taker for a little bit, and I'm going to pass over to Cordelia to run through conferences and stuff like that.
Should unmute myself, that helps. Yeah, me and Luke, it started slightly with the newsletter that I sent out after the last meeting, where I included a bit about upcoming conferences and workshops, and I kind of got into this slightly and then realized there were lots of conferences and workshops coming from different places, and because we're at that weird bit where we sit at the kind of intersection of different places, there are lots and lots of different people who don't know each other necessarily exist, seem to be running conferences on accessible maths, or loosely related to. So we were kind of thinking one of the things that it might be useful as a group we could do is kind of highlight all of these conferences together, because there's always a meeting and you go, oh, I wish I knew about that from so and so, but it was last week. So I was slightly wondering, I've got my list of where I'm looking for conferences, but I am one person and I am only one person. Does anyone have a kind of good source of, this community is a good source of conferences. I know there's the one in Glasgow, but one I realized no one else had thought about was next week I'm going to one about run by the LMS, London Mathematics School, not the other LMS, about using digital tools in teaching mathematics. So yeah, I was just wondering, does anyone have any kind of other sources where they might be less obvious sources of conferences maybe and discussion on this topic? I sent the letter on the Jisc mailing list, the newsletter on the Jisc mailing list. So did anyone receive it? I know some people received it because I checked. Yes, okay, cool. It might have just been missed. It is on the new website.
I'm sure I must have missed it then. And my apologies. My apologies.
Another one out in the next week or two.
Okay.
So we'll there'll be version 2.
And thank you. Thank you. There's also been a lot. I could have easily missed it. I usually try and, or the other thing I'm a little worried about, if you might have been put in my spam box. If I'm right, there are universities automatic spam checker. So
I mean, if you
the
mailing list ones, it should have been there.
Thank you.
Yeah. A new one that's kind of place that struck me today, which again is a slightly obvious one, is the kind of Blackboard and Ultra run occasionally their own conferences. So maybe it is worth thinking from a more development point of view too. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any ideas on this.
Yeah, and of course their market will be bigger, you know, if they can make it LMS agnostic.
Very good point. In terms of conferences, there was, who was it? Is it Athen or Ahead? Did a Making STEM Accessible conference 2-3 years ago now. I don't know if it was a one-off or if they look to do one each year.
Yeah, sometimes you get kind of one. It's the Sheffield one that's soon. That started off as a one-off that's now become regular. Yes, there is. Registration now opens for the Athens State of Accessibility virtual event on May the 14th. We've just missed it. Oh, and there's another one today about providing accessible textbooks. Also missed it. All these things you kind of wish you went to, but you only find out afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, this might be a kind of thing that we take some time to find out where to kind of go, and then as we find more of these things, it kind of exponentially grows. But I'm hoping to start a new page on the website, which is kind of upcoming things and links to past things, because often people put up recordings of past things, so even if you miss it, you can still see it, which I think would be helpful. Cool. Right, and then I guess in the last 4 minutes, I know some of you have already done this, but talking about the website, if you want your name in the members directory, please will you send either me or Luke or stick it in the document. I will put an example up, a little biography and who you are, what you do, your job title, and I will add you to the website. I've got some people up there. I know Christian's up there, me and Luke. So yeah, you of course don't have to be, but yeah, it'd be good to get as many people up as possible, partly just from a networking point of view, so we can network among ourselves. Cool.
Awesome. That's a good idea, Christian. Just post in like your professional staff page, and we'll just take the photos of that with your permission.
Yeah, it might actually be worth linking that onto the, if you don't mind linking the professional work page to the.
That's a good idea.
That probably is a good idea. Cool. Thank you for the photo.
Incredible. Okay. Does anyone have any other business that they would like to raise before we then close up?
Ross asked a question earlier about, which I will take 2 minutes to answer. I'll try and remind myself what the question was. It was about how much effort we had to put in to get staff to take up using Chiron. A mix. I think most lecturers now are sort of doing it themselves, but then when they have trouble, they'll email us, and normally it's like a missing LaTeX package that we have to do some work for. Others that didn't have LaTeX source to begin with hired student interns to take their notes and retype them, or type them from handwritten stuff. So we did that for a few modules. That really only affects old courses. As new ones coming in, we warn lecturers that they're going to have to produce accessible digital material. So they'll either do it themselves, or if they were going to hire interns to help them anyway, they do that. So if you're going from nothing to everything has to be accessible, yes, you will need some interns to do some typing. But otherwise, lecturers should just be able to do it themselves if they've got the source material.
So, did you teach your interns LaTeX, or did you hire with that in mind?
No, they have to do some LaTeX in their stage 3 project, so I think we would have taken students that had done that. I mean, you take good ones, and they I think they just taught themselves. You want as simple LaTeX code as possible, so actually it's better to have a novice doing it rather than a lecturer who'll bring their preamble that they've accumulated over 15 years that overrides everything.
Yeah, every time I think about LaTeX and the complexities of it, I know of one person, one academic at my institution who has a course textbook that was just authored completely in LaTeX, all with like custom macros, so many vague packages which don't exist on CTAN, and I shudder if anyone ever says this needs to be accessible, because it's going to be a mountain to climb if we need to.
Yeah, I've had a couple of courses material where they've had like a several thousand line preamble of stuff that you're like, why are you making your own chapter environment? And I just comment it out for running it through Chiron, and you go, oh, it actually looks fine. So the PDF version is still whatever nonsense they had, but if you just comment out all their stuff, and if they defined any new macro names, you make them straightforward. That worked.
That is a fantastic top tip. Just comment it out, so then you don't
just chuck it all out. Yeah.
Incredible. Awesome. Okay, I think that brings us to 3 o'clock. Just on behalf of myself and Cordelia, thank you very much for spending the hour with us, and we'll see you all again in the future.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care, everybody.